Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm so excited to share with you my most recent experience with ayahuasca. You might have seen my previous videos where I went to another facility and I had the time of my life. And this was a completely different experience. So this time I went to Soltara, and this was located in the Sacred Valley in Peru. Now, I want to start by saying that their time in Peru was limited. So, actually, I got to be the very last group to ever experience Soltera in Sacred Valley. And my last ceremony was actually their last night ever doing a ceremony in Peru. However, stay tuned because at the end of the video, I'm going to compare the Sacred Valley location with the Costa Rica location. And now they're opening a second location in Costa Rica, and they're very, very similar. And there's actually a couple of amenities and things like that that are a little bit better at the Costa Rica location. However, I want to start by saying, my last experience with ayahuasca was incredible, where I experienced it at Rhythmia in Costa Rica. And I want to start by saying these are very, very, very different places, very different traditions, and very different experiences. So I will be doing a video coming up after this where I'm going to compare the two and see what might be the right one for you. So if you're considering doing ayahuasca, you could go back and watch the full video on that place, come and watch this full video on this place, and then I'm going to do a separate video actually comparing and contrasting the two. But I have to start by saying that Soltera is the real deal. The real, pure, authentic, real deal. And wow, I'm completely blown away by this place. I'm so grateful that I was able to experience it. It was really another level. And I'm also going to do a video after this where I actually talk about the ceremony. But for this, we're just going to talk about the facility, what they do, what makes them special, what makes this place important, just so you can get an idea of the difference between Solterra and other places and how amazing it is. So, but I will be going in depth into all of the things that came up in ceremony for me, all of my personal stuff, and really what to expect in the nitty gritty of it all. But so, like I said, this place is the real deal. And about 5 minutes into the ceremony, and then about 20 minutes into the first ceremony, when the medicine started hitting me, I knew. I knew, like, whoa, I'm in awe of how pure and authentic this place really is. So, let me just start by saying what makes Solterra special. So, they use or they follow the Shipibo tradition. And the Shipibo tradition comes from the Peruvian Amazon. These are people who have been born into this, and it's a very pure tradition. So these are not just people who learn how to do these ceremonies. These are not just people who become shamans and hold space. And not that there's anything wrong with that. Everybody has their own journey with ayahuasca. The medicine, Mother Aya, is so intelligent, so special, and she finds the people who need her, and she finds them in the way that they are meant to be. So this is in no way putting down other types of ceremonies, other types of facilities, other types of people who hold these ceremonies, but this is the real deal. So, I'm going to first start by explaining that actually they don't call the people holding these ceremonies shamans. And that's because the Shipibo people don't use the word shaman. So they use the word maestro or maestra, and that meaning either teacher or master. And so you're working with the maestros, and the people that I was able to work with, I'm just in awe. And I know that the cycles that they do, the rotation that they do of their healers, of their facilitators are incredible. They pick hand select incredible people. But I got to work with Maricela and her son, Robert. So this was actually the first time that Maricela and her son, Robert, were able to do a ceremony together. It was such an experience because not only are we dealing with this beautiful metaphysical realm, but then we also have the connection between mother and son holding the ceremony for us. Now, Maricela, her husband Francisco, is another person that works with Soltara a lot. So some of the people in my group had already gone to Soltara 2 years ago in Costa Rica, and they did their ceremony with Maricela and Francisco, which is Robert's father. So this is the family lineage. Maricela has been doing this for over 20 years, and Robert was born into this and has been exposed to this since childhood and grew up in this tradition. So these are not modern people. These are people from the jungle. They are from Pucallpa, I believe it's called, Pucallpa, which is a jungle town that they live in. And so what makes the Shipibo method so incredible is the way that they become maestros. And it was a great learning experience for me because I already had experienced ayahuasca. I already had a really good understanding of the medicine and how it works. And the other place that I had gone to really focuses on Mother Aya does the work, the medicine does the work, the medicine is intelligent, the medicine, and they really put the power in the medicine's hands. Now, at Soltara, it was more so the medicine combined with the maestros. This is the maestros being able to work with and navigate the medicine for individual healing. Now, that's also what makes this place, it was just mind blowing. I'm in awe, is the individual experience that you get. So I'm going to get to that in a second. But first, let me describe how they get to this level of where they are able to be maestros or maestras. So they do these in the Shipibo tradition. They do something called plant dietas. And so a dieta is, sometimes we hear that word around our own preparation for ceremony, but the way, which is true, but the way that they use it in this context is actually how they get the Icaros. So the Icaros are the songs that are sang in ceremony. And if you've watched my other videos on my last ayahuasca experience, I talked about how beautiful the music is and how incredible the music is. But in this, the only music is sang by the maestros themselves. There is no instruments, there is no recordings, there is no music that is being played. It is their voice, which is the only thing that you are hearing aside from your other people, whatever they're going through in their ceremony. That is the music of the ceremony. So these sacred healing songs are called Icaros. And in this tradition, they will spend years getting these Icaros. These are not something that they learn. These are not something that are, they study. So the way that they do these plant dietas is in the Amazon in Peru. There's, as you would imagine, many different plants. And the Shipibo people, their cosmology, their view of the world is basically that these plants have healing properties. These are basically, the jungle is like a plant pharmacy. And what they do is they spend months and months and months at a time with these plants, and they go on a very strict diet. So they pretty much, kind of from what it seemed like of what I was hearing about and then read about it a little bit after, they pretty much almost go into a starvation. So they only eat yucca and fish and very minimal. Then they go on like a water fast, and then they go on a dry fast, and they go down to like a very, very pure state of their body running pure just on their own energy. And then they drink plant these special plants as a tea. And these are not psychedelic plants. These are different plants with different healing properties of the Amazon. And one dieta is for one plant. So if they diet with Maricela, she had dieted with about 3 or 4 plants. This is months and months and months in the jungle with just this one plant. And you bring yourself to this very pure state and then drink this tea regularly only of that plant. And what happens in the Shipibo tradition is that this plant will download basically Icaros into you and will tell you the healing songs, and it will give you these songs, which then they use in ceremony. So Maricela was doing this for over 20 years. She's been holding these ceremonies for over 20 years, and she did about 3 or 4 of these dietas for these plants already, which is very, difficult for the modern people that are being born, even though they still live in the jungle, it's a huge sacrifice to be able to take months of your life to just diet with this plant. So I'm going to get back to that. Um, so that's what makes this a very pure method. And now let's talk a little bit about Soltara, about how I'm just in awe of how they're able to take this really ancient, pure tradition that is so authentic and actually be able to bring it into the modern world. And they do it so seamlessly because these maestros are able to really do exactly what they do. So in ceremony, it is completely dark. There is no candles, there is no lights, it is complete darkness. And as usual, you will drink the medicine and you have your sacred silence, which is, maybe an hour, maybe 90 minutes, as long as it takes for the medicine to be kicking in. And then when the music starts, they sing these individual songs. They sing it to the room in the Maloka. Now, the Maloka is gorgeous, beautiful room that we're all in. We're all there on mattresses, small mattresses on the floor. And this is the same for the Costa Rica place as well. So even though I'm talking about the experience that I had at the Sacred Valley, this is the same tradition, the same maestros. They also work at the Costa Rica location. They cycle through several of them. So everything that I'm sharing is the same. And then I'm going to share at the end some things that are very specific to the Costa Rica location, which I spoke to the staff and got some information to make sure that what is similar and what is different. And pretty much the only thing that's different is the facility. So the facility in Costa Rica is more comfortable. There's temperature controls. They actually have the chefs there also work with the medicine. So the diet is actually more pure and actually allegedly more delicious. So it actually seems that the differences between the Sacred Valley and the Costa Rica location are actually, you get those little extra things. So Peru is freezing at night. I did not know that. So I was not fully prepared for the winter. And so, in Peru, there's not a lot of temperature control everywhere that I stayed because I did go to some other places and it's not a place that has a lot of temperature control. So you pretty much just got to bundle up and freeze at night. And they did a great job with giving us plenty of blankets. But it does sound like the Costa Rica location is a little bit more comfortable when it comes to those room accommodations and stuff like that. So, okay. So these people, like I said, they don't call themselves shamans because the word shaman comes from Siberia. And this Shipibo tradition is so old. It's been passed on through lineage. The people that are doing it have been born into this. They spend years and years and years being able to just do the dietas to even make themselves available to even start holding ceremonies, and they're usually born into this. So the purity of it is just, I'm still in awe. And okay, so now some of the other things about the Shipibo method that were very different than the other ayahuasca experience that I had. So one thing that I noticed is actually on the first day when we first got to meet the maestros, one of the girls in my group asked, "So, what makes the Shipibo method different than other methods?" Because she had already done ayahuasca as well. And first of all, I mean, they don't speak English, so they have a translator. So, she translates to them, and then the answer is, they're like, "Oh, well, we don't know anything about the other methods, so we can't really answer that." They're just like, "We don't know how the Shipibo method's different because we don't do any other methods. We don't know any other method. This is our life." So, I have a little bit that I know about what makes this different because I have experienced the other tradition. I've actually experienced kind of a more modern tradition and then also a Colombian tradition because they did both at Rhythmia. So this one thing that makes the Shipibo method very pure and also Soltara very special is that it's a very small group. So we had 11 people in our group. It can go up to about 20 if that's the case, but also the Costa Rica facility is bigger, but that's maximum is about 20 people. And in my group, there was only 11 of us. And this is an extremely individual process. The maestros sing Icaros to you individually, and there is nothing that feels more special. Like, it feels special to be serenaded, but to be serenaded in this way with someone who has ancient knowledge and family lineage and this pure tradition, and this is their service to plant medicine and service to the world, to sit in front of you and sing directly to you to specifically heal you. It's the most beautiful experience. So now, when I first decided to go to Soltara, they actually have a very extensive intake process. So they do not accept everybody, which was also very interesting because I kind of thought, oh, I'm going. But then I didn't realize I still needed to like do an intake and be approved. And I was shocked. I was like, wait, I already bought my plane ticket. What if I don't get approved? And then I read that they're like, don't buy your plane ticket because we have to approve you. We approve every single person. And this is because, as you guys know, some medications interact with ayahuasca. Mental health issues can interact with ayahuasca. Some physical medical issues can interact with it. And they don't mess around. They go 100% and they do, not only do you have to fill out these forms, they do a Zoom call with you for the intake process to actually talk to you about everything that you put on there, about your health, about your mental health, about what your intentions are. What are you trying to get out of this? What is your expectations? And if not, they will not approve you. And I thought that was also had a lot of integrity because, obviously they could just accept anybody, but they want to make sure that the medicine is actually going to work for them. And if someone is not a good candidate to do ayahuasca, then they're not going to allow that person to come and do ayahuasca with them. So, in that intake process, I spoke with a woman, Carolina, and she was wonderful. I mean, everyone connected to the whole staff was wonderful. And I'm going to get more into some of the staff after because the facilitators were just, oh my God, angels on earth. And so the intake process was really beautiful and interesting. And I had told her, well, I've already done ayahuasca before. And then she explained to me, and I'll show you this, but then I'll explain this more. So she was like, okay, let's say, and this is something that I bought from the maestra Maricela. This is what she made individually. And I'll explain more about this later. But let's say this was how it was explained to me by Carolina, what makes the Shipibo method very simple way to explain it. She said, okay, like see as if see this pattern here. I'm also streaming on TikTok. So let me show the pattern. So she says, imagine that your energy field is like one of these patterns. And everyone has their own natural pattern of their energy field. And, there's everything is like beautifully, when you're born, is beautifully, perfectly spaced out and is this beautiful individual pattern that is your energy field. However, over time in life, things happen. Maybe lines get crossed, things get a little crooked, maybe something gets a little dim, something gets a little fuzzy, and that pattern of your energy field gets a little spots on it, a little heavy spot, a little dark spot. Maybe you're holding something on the heart, you're holding something on the head, you're holding something on the side. So, in ceremony, the maestros literally sit in front of you in the pure darkness. They sit directly in front of you. You sit up, even if you're already kind of going through it with the medicine. You sit up and you sit face to face with them, and they literally see your energy field, and they sing an individual Icaro, which they are channeling from the plants that they dieted with and from all of the stuff that they've done to prepare for this. They sing a song specifically to you. And I'm telling you, it's overwhelming how beautiful it is. And on some of the nights, and like I said, in the next video, I'm going to get into my personal experience of what happened these nights. I literally felt things being removed from me. I started to need to, vomit a little, to spit, to like literally I felt like energy getting cleared from me, and not like entities, but for me it was limiting beliefs. It was, and I'm going to get more into my deep experience with that, but honestly, beliefs about myself that were even hidden from myself, things that I like, some really deep shadow work. And you guys who've been watching regularly know I've gone through a really crazy shadow work journey this year. And this was even deeper. Like, this was even more to the core, stuff that had been in me since I was a baby, since I was born, feelings that had been in me for my whole life that were even hidden from me. And I felt them removing it. And I was hearing in my head Mother Ayahuasca telling me, like, it's okay to trust that it's gone. It's okay to trust that it's leaving you. And then also sometimes, so each night you get two Icaros. So there's the maestro and the maestra, and they come around and sing in front of you, and they both go around the room. They start. So that's what's also beautiful too, is that there's someone across from you in the room who's getting the Icaro from the other maestro, and their songs are like beautifully in sync. And the other thing that is amazing is, I'm such a believer, you probably have heard this from my other ayahuasca videos, the group of people that you are there with is not a mistake, is not a coincidence. Mother Aya starts working sometimes years before, calling to that person. And like, there was people that were there who just 3 weeks ago decided that they were going to pull the trigger and go. People who were supposed to go to the Costa Rica location, and then last minute couldn't go, had a other obligation, and ended up coming to Sacred Valley. People who were not even going to do ayahuasca, or people who've been thinking about it for 4 years and just didn't fully pull it and go until then. Like, the people that are in your group are so, first of all, it's like a soul contract. It's like soul family. You're so close by the end, but also have similar wounds. The people that you end up with, and the people who were near me in the room as well, had very similar wounds to me, even though maybe that's not what we expressed outwardly was our intention, because we all had different intentions and different reasons for being there. But as you open up more, you see that the other people that are in the room have very similar wounds, have very similar life experiences, have very similar things that they're going through, or have gone through, or have already healed from, or don't even know they need to heal from yet. And so what's amazing is you get this individual Icaro to heal you and rearrange your energy field. And like, this is not just energy healing. This is mental, spiritual, physical, psychological, and emotional healing. This is all the levels of healing. And now, people that are on one side of me had family issues and had very, very deep issues with a father wound. And then other people in the group had issues, if you've seen my stuff in the past, you know that I've dealt with also a lot of like being cheated on in relationships. There will be people who cheated on people in the room as well. And it's all different versions of, there was also people who had issues with their daughter, so it was like all ends of the wounds were in the room together. So when the other Icaros are being sang to someone, it starts healing you as well, because these other Icaros that are for these other people, you have those same wounds sometimes. So there was times like Now, a lot of the Icaros that were specifically for me, later on, I asked the facilitators, like, what do those words mean? Because they're not in Spanish, they're in Shipibo. So I don't know any of these words. And I was like, so like what are they saying in these songs? And I'm thinking like I can understand some a little bit, like mama and papa, like there's words like that. And like there's some words that you can understand, but then other words I'm like, I have no idea what that means. And later the facilitators on the last night, we were asking like, what do these songs mean? And it's really they're directing the energy. They'll be like, remove, 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 move up, 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 move out, move out. And she says it's actually very simple, but it's like the way that they're singing and the way that they're moving their throat and their voice is like, it's incredible. So, one of the things that I notice is because a lot of my healing was about removing limiting thoughts and removing these things from me, a lot of times when they would get to me to sing the Icaros, it was purge city. People started purging like crazy in the room because these songs were instructing to purge these limiting beliefs, to purge self-hatred, to purge these things out. And it was literally purging it from other people as well. So that's what's also an amazing, beautiful experience about it is that even though you have this extremely individual experience, everybody else is also having a little piece of that healing too. So another thing that makes this experience so individual and so different than my last experience is the dosage. So now, like I said, Mother Aya works in many special ways. Everything is very how you need to have it. So, and I still love the other place that I went to. And like I said, I'm going to do a video comparing the two because they're very different. But with this one, it is an individual dose and an individual uh like diagnostic. So basically, your first day of ceremony, earlier in the day, everybody goes into the maloka and each person introduces themselves to the maestro. This is in the daytime, in the daylight, early in the morning, about like 10 in the morning. Everybody introduces themselves to the healers, to the maestros, and you say your name, you say where you're from, and you say what your intentions are. And then you also tell them if you've had an experience with ayahuasca before. Then that night, when you go into your first ceremony, you have an individual meeting with the two facilitators. And I'll get into the facilitators soon because they're just literal angels. And then the maestro. So they basically ask like, what is your sensitivity to it? What was your dosage in other ceremonies? And then they decide. So that first night they do a diagnostic amount, which is basically something that is kind of more standard and or maybe a little less than standard, but they basically kind of start there in that first night. And then after they sit with you in that ceremony, each night you have a meeting with the maestro when you're about to drink the medicine where they discuss how was last night? How did it feel? How was the intensity? Do you feel comfortable doing more? Do you feel comfortable doing less? Do you think you need more? Do you think you need less? How long did the medicine last for you? So it's such an individual experience. So not only are you getting individual healing two times from two rounds of Icaros, one from each maestro, you also get that one-on-one time with the maestro. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about the schedule because I'm already kind of getting into that. So you get there on the first night, well, afternoon. They pick you up in Cusco. But obviously, because this was the last ceremony that they were having in Peru, and now they're going to have two facilities open in Costa Rica. I'm assuming it'll be something similar. They will pick you up either from a location or from the airport, and they bring you as a group to the facility. And on that first day, you get checked in, you get your room, you get comfortable. And then they have a little meeting talking about the ayahuasca. And then they have that little meeting with about what to expect, the tradition, the maestros, what is ayahuasca all about. Then they collect all the contraband. So basically, anything that is not compatible with this ayahuasca experience, they ask you to give in on the first day. So that means any type of outside food or snacks, because you're on a very strict diet. All the food is specifically catered for this experience. So if you have candy, if you have chocolate, if you have snacks, if you have something, you give in your contraband. If you have any medications, anything like that, you're going to give that in, unless it's something that's approved, which you're going to have everything's an individual experience. So they're going to talk to you about that. Anything that is not, they say also, if you want to give your phone as the contraband, that's okay too. But nobody in my group gave our phones in. And then they also give you, oh, I should have grabbed it. I didn't grab it, but they give you a little book as well, a little notebook, which is called the Hero's Journal. And it's basically a workbook that goes through all of these different things about preparing for the medicine, for your intentions. What is the best way to set intentions? What is your expectations? What is the difference between expectations and intentions? Then it has a section about ceremony and a whole section about things to fill out during your after, not during your ceremony, but those days that you're going to ceremony when you have free time to fill out those sections. And then they have something for afterward for integration. And so in that book, one of the things that they talk about with the intentions is by Dr. Gabor Mate. So you guys probably know who he is. I think he wrote the book. Oh, I can't think of the name of it, but he's incredible. You guys have probably seen tons and tons of videos of him. So he's one of the board members, I believe, one of the board members of Soltara. So he's referenced in that book as the best way to set intentions is either show me, teach me. I should have grabbed the book. But basically, instead of saying like, I want to work on this, or I want to work on my that, or I want to change this about myself, the better way to say it is to say, show me this, teach me this. And you keep it more simplified, your intention, so that when you're going into the ceremony, you're pretty clear about the theme. So they have a little exercise in the book where you kind of write down all the stuff that you're thinking of. And then there's kind of a theme there that you consolidate into like, show me this, teach me this. So then on your second day, this was the part that was actually the hardest for me, and I know it sounds crazy because the ayahuasca ceremonies are very difficult, but there's a ceremony at 7 a.m. on day 2, which is actually your first day of ceremonies because you get there, in the afternoon, you check in, you have dinner, you talk to your group, you just get settled in, unpack. Early the next morning, which is, like, really your first day there, they start off at 7 a.m. with a Vomitivo ceremony. And a vomitivo is exactly what it sounds like. Now, the only time I had really heard about this, because the other place that I had gone to doesn't do these type of ceremonies, is from a clip of Megan Fox talking about how she did ayahuasca with Machine Gun Kelly in the jungle. Mm, that you basically, so I had heard her talk about it and I was like, oh, that's weird. Not realizing that I would soon be doing the Vomitivo ceremony. And I am someone who really has a lot of resistance to vomiting. Because, for me, the only times that I ever vomit is like when I was younger, maybe I drank too much. Maybe I took something that I wasn't supposed to be taking, like I freaking took some drugs or something, or if I was sick and had the flu or something like that. So the only times that I have associated with vomiting are I've either harmed myself or I'm sick or something's wrong. Something is wrong, So it's very difficult for me. If I'm even sick and I need to, I will fight it. I will just stay uncomfortable and not allow it to happen. So once they told us that we were gonna do this Vomitivo ceremony, my heart was racing. I was like, "Oh my god," all night long. I was thinking about it. I was horrified to wake up. I wanted to get out of doing it. So we get there in the morning, and like I said, Peru is freezing, whereas if you do this in Costa Rica at their location, it's not gonna be as cold in the morning. And so on top of being cold, um, basically, the way that this works is you drink lemongrass tea, and lemongrass does not make you throw up. It's not a purgative, uh, but it's just that you drink so much of it. So you drink a bunch of cups. And this is something that is part of the ancient tradition. This is part of the Shipibo tradition. This is part of the way that when you do it the really authentic way. Now, the other place that I had gone to gave colonics. So they cleared you out from the other side. And, that's a much more new, modernized style of doing ayahuasca. And I had an existential crisis for that too. So this was still also as difficult, maybe even more. And so the lemongrass tea was fine. I'll probably never drink it again after that, but it tasted fine. There was nothing wrong with it. And so you drink and drink and drink a cup and drink a cup. And they basically say, like, drink, don't think. You drink as many cups as you need to until it comes back out. And it's extremely uncomfortable. But I want to say, which is what I said in my last ayahuasca experiences. I can't believe that the fear of discomfort almost prevented me from liberation, from the healing, from the liberation of the ayahuasca, from plant medicine. It is the most healing, incredible thing that I've ever experienced, and I'm beyond grateful for it. So do not let the fear of discomfort get in the way of doing it. But I'm just telling you how it works here. This is the full breakdown of what to experience. So you do the vomitivo, and I had a really, really, really difficult time with this. And I'm going to talk more about that when I break down my personal experience. Um, but I had a really difficult time with it. So it has to come up naturally. But then after it comes up naturally, then you're allowed to use your fingers to get the rest out. And, other people had, felt very like good and clear after. I was a little bit like rattled by the experience. So also on that day, then so that's actually your first the whole week is a ceremony. It's 7 days of ceremony. But then there's 4 ayahuasca ceremonies, but then there's other types of ceremonies as well. So the vomitivo is technically a ceremony as well. And I went last. Some people were like, I don't want to go last and usually I'm the person that I always go first or second for everything. I'd rather just get something over with. This one, I was like letting the line dwindle down until I was the very last one. And then everyone was waiting for me because then I couldn't get it out. Um, so then later that day in the afternoon, you'll have your second ceremony, which is the flower bath. And then that's where you meet with the maestros again. And they have beautiful warm water in these large buckets that have roses and rosemary and some of their sacred plants and some of their healing plants. And it's all in there like a beautiful kind of warm tea. And they pour it over your head to cleanse you. So then you don't shower after that. So if you want to shower, you shower before, and then they put this over you, this beautiful flower bath, and this cleanses your energy, and it basically gets you ready for that first ceremony. Sorry, TikTok needs me to verify myself. And so, oh, someone's asking, is there ceremony to prevent the vomiting during other ceremonies? So that is the thing with the vomitivo, is it does actually help you to clear out anything that could potentially come out in the ceremony. So one of the reasons for the vomitivo is to kind of minimize any type of um, less purging in ceremony. So you get a lot of that cleared out, especially if you had some issues with the diet. But the only thing that comes up is the water because you do it early in the morning. So it's not like anything else really comes out. But it does, they say, help clear you out before the ceremony actually starts. So then you do your flower bath, and then about at 6:30 p.m. that day, you do your pre-ceremony, which is in the Maloka. You have your designated space. You're in your same spot every single night. There's name tags, so it's completely dark in there when the ceremony starts. So having those distinct spots is very important because the maestros are singing to you every night. So also they're remembering who you are and where you are in the room and what they're working on. So in that first night, we at 6:30 go into the Maloka and they have a little pre-ceremony yoga and it's very gentle. You're pretty much laying down the whole time, just kind of small movements, little rocking of the hips, little tiny stretches. It's I mean, it's hardly yoga. It's definitely yoga practice, but there's no downward dog, there's no cobra, there's nothing like that. This is really just like very gentle, kind of like when you do yoga, how like the last 5 minutes of the session is kind of laying and just a little twist, a little that. So they have everybody do that for the hour before the ceremony. And they say this is because, sometimes people are anxious before the ceremony. And I know for sure my last one, I was very anxious before my ceremonies. So this is to get you all calm, to get everyone's energy really relaxed, to get everybody really balanced and centered before the ceremony starts. So people aren't coming in there with nerves. And they said it's not mandatory, but you might just be pacing in your room back and forth thinking about what's going to happen that night. So it gets you all calm before, and then 7:30 the maestros come in, the facilitators come in, and then that's the beginning of the first ceremony. And so let me talk a little bit about the facilitators now. So the facilitators, there was 3 of them. We had, Robert, Gemma, and Bonnie, and they cycle through different, those people are with you your whole ceremony. However, um, they're not the only people working because this is a very small, intimate staff. The other place that I had gone to had a staff of like hundreds of people, you know, like it was a huge, huge staff. So you have all these different people in classes, you have all these different people who help the shamans, you have a different shaman every night. And so it's a very big, big business, the other one. Whereas Soltara, these facilitators are with you from morning till night. They are with you all throughout the day, even in the time that they are, because I've had so many jobs, I'm thinking like, damn, these people need to take a break. They've been here all day and they never make you feel rushed. They're always there to speak to you. They're always there to talk. When during my Vomitivo, I got to get pretty close with Robert because he was the one who was helping me get through the Vomitivo. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I mean, I started crying because I couldn't vomit. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to do it. He's like, but you're doing it. And so I ended up bonding with him right away. Gemma was also just such an angel. Literal, everybody just kept calling her an angel. And Bonnie was incredible, just a sweet, sweet, just wonderful soul. Like they were all just the sweetest people and so like dedicated to um this medicine and to this journey. And so what makes it very pure is that the maestros come from this lineage. This is their tradition that they learned in their family, in their ceremonies, in their culture. And then the facilitators are from all around the world. But these are people who also have, 14 years, 10 years experience. Like these are people who have all been doing this for over 10 years. And so they are in ceremony with you every night. So we had 2 in ceremony with us, Robert and Gemma, and then Bonnie was there more so for the days. So she really was a lot more of the support during the daytime, but obviously all of them were supportive all day long. Like I cannot believe that these people like do so much. Like I am just so grateful for them. So they're also the ones that are doing each day, then you group again. So then now you've had your first ceremony. Next day, you come back, you have your breakfast together, you have all of that stuff, and then you have your another ceremony. So it's kind of like a group share. And so we come back into the room, we come back and discuss with the maestros what our experience was that night. How was the medicine? How was the dosage? What came up? And now our experience, what was coming up. So then what happens is that the maestros were able to see us that night when they sang our Icaros directly individual to us. Now that next night we get to tell them relative life experience, what's going on, what came up, how was the dosage, all of that. So this gives them a better diagnostic of, oh, okay, this person took this much medicine last night. This is what came up for them. This is what their life experience is. So, say, for example, when I told you that they're looking at you and they see like a pattern of your energy field. Now, say they saw your energy field, then the next day, when you tell them the relative life experience, they're like, oh, that dark spot, and this is just me saying this, like, this is not what they told us. They don't tell you what it is. They're not there to be a psychic or diagnose you. This is for them to be able to know which Icaros, what am I working on? What is this connected to? Is this a physical ailment? So then you share more about your life experience, your issues, your health. And then they know from the night before, from looking at your energy field, like, oh, there's a spot here. Now, they don't have words for a lot of these things diagnostically. Not to say that they don't know the words, because they also speak Spanish as well. So they have the words in Spanish, but like there's no word in Shipibo for depression. They can know though that there's this energy hanging around the person, and this person starts explaining something, or like say they saw a dark patch on someone and now this person's talking about like, oh, I'm dealing with anger. And they're like, oh, well, their liver area was darkened. That makes sense. Now I know how to work on them tonight. So this is like such a beautiful individual experience, because you have like a group consultation with them and everybody shares more. And now the things that I went into on the first night thinking what I was going to be working on is not what ended up coming up in that ceremony, and not what I ended up working on while I was there. And like I said, I'm going to do a whole video just on my own personal experiences. So then you go into your second night of ceremony. Again, you do your yoga before, your really gentle yoga, and then into the second ceremony. And again, you do the same thing. It's in the dark. We have the maestros individually sing the Icaros to you, individually sing two different Icaros, plus the other Icaros in the room are healing you as well. And now, having that extra bit of information, those Icaros are very tailored to you now, even more so, because now it's not just them reading your energy. Now it's like, oh, this came up and you need help with this. And you talked about this and this and this. And like when he was singing my Icaros, when Maestro Robert was singing my Icaros, people were purging, because what I needed to do was remove stuff. Things needed to be removed from me. And people were purging during mine. Like it was coming out. But then also, there was songs that were empowering as well. So like one of the Icaros was very empowering. Now, the next day, which is actually your fourth day at the retreat, because you don't actually have your first ceremony until the second day. So day 4 is your day off. So after you've had 2 ayahuasca ceremonies, then you have a night off and you get to have dinner together, which is great because obviously you're not allowed to eat dinner. You have your dinner in a cup from ayahuasca. So then that middle day between your first and second ceremony and your third and fourth, you have a day off. And there's yoga that day as well. And you really just get to like journal and hang out and talk, and you get to eat a little bit more, and you get to just have that day is so important. The last place that I went to had 4 consecutive ceremonies. These are very intense ceremonies because these are individual. They are singing to you. They are healing your energy field. They gave you an exact diagnostic. They gave you the exact amount of dose, and then they adjusted the amount of dose to the second day. So like you really go through a lot in those 2 days. So you have your day off. That's wonderful. Next day, which is day 5 of the retreat, and the third day of ceremony, you have your breakfast together, all of these things, and then we come back to another ceremony. So where you have a group share. That's in the morning about 10 a.m. And this one is called integration tools. So they teach you a little bit about integration, but then they also do a limiting beliefs exercise. And this limiting beliefs exercise is so powerful. Like, and what's so good is the way the exercise is done is it doesn't let you rehearse it. You can maybe rehearse your first or second, but they get you to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And all of these other limiting beliefs come out that you are not even aware that you have. And that really set me up for my third ceremony, because I kind of thought that I got like 95% of my stuff removed between the first and second. So I kind of was like, well, what am I going to work on tonight? If I only have 5%, this is a long ceremony, got a lot to do. But then I didn't, that group exercise that we did really showed me other things that were limiting beliefs in my life that I was not aware of. And it presented it to me. So then I went into my third ceremony saying basically, okay, Mother Aya, help me remove these things, these limiting beliefs, whether I know them or whether I don't. If it's not serving me, take it from me. And, like I said, I'll get into the personal stuff in another video because I had a rough night. I had a rough night all the nights, but at the same time, by the end of each night ceremony, I was laughing because I was so overwhelmed by the gratitude of the experience and the craziness of the experience. So then you have your fourth and final ceremony, which is on day 6. And this is the Arcana ceremony. So, Arcana is basically the sealing up. So, the fourth ceremony is basically now there's still work to be done. So, a lot of people kind of thought this was going to be easy town. A lot of people thought, like, oh, okay, this is the gentle one. This is the easy ceremony. No, there's still work to be done. And it was still really intense. But the Arcana ceremony is they rearrange. It's almost like they sew your energy back up and seal it in. So this is like a closing ceremony. So all the work that they've done, they energetically clean you back up, sew you up like this, put your all your energy, everything back where it's meant to, close you back up. And then, that day in your ceremony that day, they talk a bit about your post diet. How do you keep this going? What are your commitments that you're making to yourself that you're going to keep doing out of here? So, in that last day, you do a final flower bath. So, you do a flower bath for your first ceremony. And then for your last ceremony, again, they pour this beautiful roses and stuff on you and clear your energy, seal you up. Again, 6:30, they've got you doing your yoga. This is like a more gentle, again, yoga. And then 7:30, we go into our ceremony. So each of these ceremonies, they end when they end. So it's not a set time. It's when the maestros feel that the energy has settled and they've placed everything back to where it's meant to be. And then, it ends. So on some of these nights, you're ending around 1:30, 2 a.m., or 2:30 a.m. seem to be the times that we were ending each night. A little bit here, a little bit there. So it starts around 7:30 and it ends around between 1 and 2:30 in the morning, depending on it could be later, whenever the ceremony is done. And so also they do suggest that if you want to, you can sleep in the maloka. So in the maloka, there's so much healing that has happened in the room. So with that, you could sleep there or you can go back to your room. Now, they have everyone have a little red light because it's complete darkness. So if you need help during the ceremony, you just flash the red light on yourself. And let me tell you, I needed help every night. Maybe not the first night because I was too I couldn't even lift a finger. But then the other nights when I had my dosage lowered, because I drank 2 cups at my other place that I went to. So I had drank a little bit higher than the average, but this Shipibo stuff is strong. It's pure. So I had 3/4 cup on the first night. I couldn't even lift a finger. I could barely make it back to my room. So then I did a half of cup after that. And that half a cup was, even though it was strong, it was the perfect amount for me for those 3 nights. But again, every single night you're sitting with the maestro, you're telling them how much the facilitators keep track of your dosage. So it's not only on you to know what you took last night. The maestro knows, but then it's also they have a little book and they write down how much you took. Did you eat that day? Because some people did a little bit of fasting. So then they're like, okay, if you're fasting, we have to adjust your dosage. And like, so they do a couple of different things for each person. There was people who were purging right away. They would drink the medicine and they would purge like 20 minutes later. So then they would do extra blessings on their cup to make sure that this person would be able to keep the medicine down more. So everything was so individually tailored. I didn't need as much of the tailoring because, you know, I was good with my half cup. I was flying with my half cup. But there was other people who maybe purged or needed a second dose or something like that, and they catered to all of that as well. So, let's see. So then we have our final ceremony, and then on day 7, which is the final day, you take your group photo, you hang out with all your friends. Then they have a little Shipibo market. So this is stuff that is made by them. So I keep showing you this. So these Icaros, the Icaros, like I said, are the songs, and the songs come from the plants. But this is also the Icaros. So when you see these patterns, this is the song. Like, I wish that I could sing it, but like, this is the song. And when I purchased this from Maestra Maricela, she was showing me this is the song, and you can literally hear how the song, their voice goes in this direction. So like they might just be saying those kind of simple directions of the energy, but the way their voice pulsates is exactly like all of these little pieces of these little grooves and um these little patterns is exactly how their voice changes and goes high and low. And what was so beautiful, so I picked out this one, and this is, help support them. And so this was the first one that I picked. And this here is the spirit of ayahuasca. So ayahuasca is a serpent, is a snake. A lot of times that's how she's represented. So this is a heart of the snake. So this is the heart. Here's the plants. There's a lot of different things on here. And then these are the hummingbirds. So in the Incan tradition and also just Peruvian tradition, the hummingbird in the snake, the serpent, those are very important figures, but they're very important in the Shipibo culture as well. And so what was interesting is when I was buying this, um, Maricela, who she doesn't speak English, she was saying it to one of the people to translate. And, I wish I spoke more Spanish, but she was saying, said when she pointed to this, she said, "Oh, the hummingbird spirit is inside of me. That's how I'm able to sing that way." And it was so funny because sometimes when she sings, she sounds like a little hummingbird. And so this was beautiful. So she makes this. She made this all by hand, and these are the Icaros. So these are also very similar to the visuals that you see. So when you walked into that Shipibo market where she had all of her tapestries and all of her designs laid out, it felt a little bit like the medicine reactivated because these are like this is what the visuals look like. Now this one stuck out to me, and now it might seem a little bit more simple, but it just stuck out to me, and I'm like, "I love this. Yeah, I need it." And then what she said is that this plant, this Icaro, comes from one of the healing plants. And now I only know how the plant sounded when she said it, but I don't know exactly what the plant is, but she said it was something like sigme, sigme, and that basically this is the Icaro of that plant. But then the translator, who's one of the facilitators, she's not just a translator, she's one of the facilitators. But she was like, "Oh, that was the plant when she introduced herself on the first day that she said is her favorite plant that she ever dieted with." So it was just amazing that this one that I picked out was her favorite plant that she has ever dieted with and her favorite that has given her Icaros. So this is very special. And then there was a lot of other things there. There was jewelry as well. So you can't see that I've been wearing it this whole time. But also, this is the vine of ayahuasca. So this is if you were to cut the ayahuasca vine, this is what it looks like on the inside. It looks literally, this is the natural inside of the vine. So this is a piece of ayahuasca, and then these are actual seeds from the Amazon. So some of the plants that they work with, these are the seeds that they use. And then um, he sang an Icaro on these, and then Maestro Robert, um, blessed this one as well. So it was so beautiful. And a little other souvenir that I had to take with me was the Florida water. So now they don't use a lot of the things that you see in a lot of other ayahuasca ceremonies, where other ceremonies they use sage and copal and they use these leaves to clear the energy. They use a lot of different tools. The Shipibo method is very pure. The only tools that they use are mapacho, which is sacred tobacco. It's just pure tobacco. So they're using a lot of tobacco to clear the energy. And then they use the Florida water, which is like the perfumes. So they give each person the bottle of the perfume and they give you the tobacco if you'd like to use it to clear the energy. I didn't use it just because you guys know I quit smoking and I just didn't want to trigger myself. It looked too much like a joint. So I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to put it in my hands because it took me a long time to get here. Um, but then they gave us this as well, the little Florida water, the little perfume to clear our energy as well. And so they use these in ceremony. Now they also make their own perfumes based on the plants that they've worked with, but then they give these to us individually so you also could help clear your own energy. It helps sometimes to smell it after you take the medicine. Now let me see if I have any other notes. Okay, so I have a couple of things about the Costa Rica location. So if you are planning on going to Soltara, I highly, highly suggest it. It's such a beautiful experience. And so the difference between the Costa Rica location is, like I said, the facility in Costa Rica is a little bit, even though this was beautiful, and I have some videos I can show you. Um, is a little bit more accommodating in the sense that it's, temperature control, the rooms are a little bit more comfortable. Our rooms were beautiful. This was a beautiful location in the Sacred Valley. However, the Costa Rica location, because it's not cold like it is in Peru, that's a little bit easier, so it's not very cold for the ceremony at night and in the mornings. They still have the same thing with a small staff. It is still the same. Like I said, also, the food is amazing. Some people say that the food is better in Costa Rica because the chef also works with the medicine. So the food is even more intertwined with the medicine. Um, it has again, compared to the other place that I had gone, this is more accessible, um, price-wise. Um, they still have the same type of screening process and the safety for the guests. It was literally the safest place that you could be. The rooms are a little bit more luxurious, like I said, at the Costa Rica location. It's the same with the medical intake, that's all the same. Also, the facilitators, they're so amazing. They also go on the dietas to learn. Now, even though they're not the ones holding the ceremony, the three facilitators that were there all did dietas that were 5 weeks or more long, that they worked with the medicine. So, and not even just ayahuasca. Like I said, they do the plant dietas with these different healing plants of the Amazon. So they spend even 5 weeks doing that. Um, Let's see, and like I said, it's the same maestros, so it's not always the same facilitators or same maestros, they go through cycles because, they Soltera does a great job at being able to, not overdo it on people. They don't wanna run them down to the thing. They're not gonna have them do 50 ceremonies a year. They cycle through them so that everybody has enough rest, everybody has enough time. Um, yeah, let's see. Okay. I have a couple of videos here that I can show you. Let me see of the place. So, this is the facility. This is what the grounds looked like. Beautiful, right? And this was my hotel room right here. Let's see. This is from inside my hotel room. I'm skimming through quickly because each one of these videos is about a minute. Here's more of the grounds, and like I said, this is the Sacred Valley location, so this is actually at a place called Risas Incas, and they hold all different types of ceremonies there. Little type of more rustic, and then you see this is in the Sacred Valley. This is the yoga room. So now this was for the regular yoga, not the Maloka. This was not the room that we did ceremonies in. Beautiful little yoga dome. Here was a little seating area. Very cute. Everything was so beautiful, so accommodating. Here's more of the grounds. Like I said, so because this is in Peru, the Sacred Valley, this is a glacier water that's coming down. So the water system, in Peru is the glacier water. So those channels are running straight from the glaciers. See here, this was all beautiful. It really was a pure oasis. Oops. Hold on. They had a little swing set. Beautiful. Here was a little pond. It actually started raining, so even though it's the dry season in Peru, they say from August 1st to August 12th is actually kind of like the almanac of the year. So basically, those are the 12 months of the year. So if it rains during that time, it means that that month is going to be a rainy month in Peru. Here's some more of the bungalows. Here's the dining. So obviously there was no food out, but that's where the buffet food would be. That was our table where we sat with all of the other people. So there was 11 people. There was 11 seats for us. There was a little fire in the back. This was the staff table back here. So we would all eat together, but they would eat on a different table. Um, really just beautiful, sweet, rustic. This is Robert and Maricela. So you can see she's wearing the Icaros here. He also has the Icaros on his vest. I mean, I can't and say express enough gratitude for them. These are the Robert and Maricela with the facilitators. So here's Gemma, Bonnie, and Robert, and me, obviously, sitting in the bottom. This is the crew that really pushed us through, that saved me. And here's the Maloka. So this is the room that all the ceremonies happened in, obviously in the daytime. So at night, it looked a little different because it was dark. But this is the Maloka. There's glass up on the top, so when I talk about my personal experiences, I'm gonna talk about the stars and crazy stuff that I saw. But look at this beautiful, beautiful room. Um, there was no fire for the ceremony because the ceremony is complete darkness, but that's the room that all the magic happens in. So stay tuned. I'm going to, like I said, talk about my personal experiences of what happened each night. This is everything that you need to know about Soltara. Like my final closing statements about it is that I'm just so grateful for them. I'm so amazed by the purity of how they're able to keep the Shipibo tradition and these maestros and the language and the Icaros and everything so intact, but still be able to give it in a modern world. And the level of healing that I experienced in myself, but also in others, was the most beautiful experience that I could have ever asked for. And it was very different than my other experience with ayahuasca. I'm grateful for both experiences. I'm going to do a video coming up comparing Rhythmia and Soltara because those are the two, kind of if you're thinking about doing ayahuasca, a lot of people are debating between the two. So I want to compare and contrast the two places. But this was like I said, like I started with, this was the real deal. This was the real, pure, traditional, authentic stuff. This was completely mind-blowing, and like I said, the facilitators made it. I didn't give them enough time in this video, but I'm gonna talk about more about them in my private experience because they were so, 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 like, out of this world. They were so special. They were with us from morning till night. It was such a small, intimate staff. The one-on-one experience that you get with the maestros, the one-on-one time that you get with the facilitators. They have walkies in every room too, so they have walkie-talkies everywhere. So, like, at any time of day or night, 24/7. If you need anything, you get on that walkie and someone answers you. Those facilitators are on call 24/7. One of the girls was really having a rough time and she asked on the walkie, "Can you please come to my room?" And they came to her room. One of the girls came to her room and sat with her and worked her through it, even though it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, the support was above and beyond, the integrity was above and beyond. The way that these facilitators who are assisting the shamans, well, the maestros, they go through the dietas themselves. They go through this work themselves. They've been working for all these years and they're so humble. Like, a lot of people could be working with plant medicine for these years and think they're the maestro. And these people were just so humble and so, like, in service and checking on us and all the time, like, literally every single time I had to go to the bathroom on in ceremony, uh, I needed help. I couldn't walk there. And every time they came and got me, and when I opened that bathroom door, they were there to bring me back to my mattress. So, it was literally the safest place ever. Like, it was just safer than safe. So even though the medicine was so intense and it's such a intense, beautiful experience, they were there. They were with us throughout everything. So, um if you are considering doing it, I would highly, highly suggest Soltara. And like I said, these other locations that they have a second location opening up in October in Costa Rica. So one of the locations I asked just to make sure, because I'm going to be sharing this information. They said one of the locations holds up to 22 people in ceremony and the other one does 14 people in ceremony. So one is at Blanca and the other one is at Montalina? I'm sorry, I scribbled it. I can't read my own handwriting. But there's a new one opening up. So even though the images that I just showed you were from my experience at the Sacred Valley, and that was the last ceremony that they ever did. My fourth and final ceremony was the final ceremony of Soltera at that location. But like I said, the Costa Rica location is a little bit more updated, still very beautiful, but, we didn't have temperature controls and we didn't have, a lot of hot water and stuff like that. But I'm gonna talk about that in my personal experience because at first, the temperature controls and being cold was really upsetting me, but I didn't realize that that's actually what I needed. For me to be in discomfort is what brought up the things that I needed to heal on, because actually that kind of, like, annoyance of I'm cold, I'm hungry, these things, even though the food was fine, it was my own stuff because I wasn't eating meat, so I wasn't eating the chicken, so I had things of my own going on that came up for me, is actually how the medicine worked to present to me exactly what I didn't even realize that I needed to work on. So I'm gonna talk about that in the next one. Thank you guys, and I'll see you there.